Want to see me dance?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Electric Vibe. 3 words. We are back.
That's right.
Jay, how you been, man?
I'm well, my man. How are you?
I can't listen. I can't complain. What you all don't see behind the scenes when Jay and I are chopping it up before we hit the record button, we are clowning big time, and it just getting our, as those Rolling Stones would say, getting our yayas out.
That's right.
And just saying the most foul. Well, that mostly. Let me qualify. Jay doesn't say the most foul, stupid stuff. That usually is left to my Chihuahua barking butt over here. And before we hit record, we try to get all professional stuff when we're on the air with our guests out of respect to the craft of podcasting. But we all both act a fool before we come on. But it's great to see you, Jay, because you and I, of course, are in constant communication. And I was away for a little over a week in Hawaii, in where my husband Aaron is from, to visit my mother-in-law and to continue the decluttering of my late father-in-law's stuff at his house. And I had been back to Hawaii since in Oahu, the island that they're from, where Honolulu is, since 2019, since he passed, and had memorial service for him. So it was really great to be back. I took a day or two to kind of get back, to figure out what time zone I was in and all that. But I did get to do some really cool Prince-related things. Namely, was hanging out with Bonnie Freshar and those who are well-versed in the Prince community, in the social media accounts and stuff, will know Bonnie for her costumes and cosplay that she does with Prince-themed outfits, which she makes herself from scratch. And she's just a wonderful human being. She helps to run a law firm in Honolulu, and got to meet her wonderful husband, Craig, who was along for this 5K race, which was tied into, actually, this week in Honolulu is the Honolulu Pride, Gay Pride, LGBTQIA Pride. And prior to that, the Saturday before all that, I participated in a 5K race. I don't usually run that many short races anymore, but I figured, okay. Aaron's like, well, why don't you just try to run as fast as you can around it? I'm like, bet, I'm going to do that.
You're going to do it.
And I actually, out of 5 people in my age group, whatever, 45 to 54 or whatever, however they broke it up, 49 to 54, I placed 3rd. Now, great for me. Yay, I got a little ribbon and all that stuff. The other 2 guys, one was 50 and one was also 54. They're running this shit in like under 20 minutes. I'm running it in just a little over 30 minutes. I'm like, my knees just hurt looking at their times,
You did it. Completed it.
But I did it. I did do it. I bested my own. I haven't run that fast in a while. I did kind of pay for it the day afterwards. I mean, I have an arthritic left knee.
Well, and I think that's all good stuff. That's part of the reason why we haven't been on for a while, is because, we do other things in our normal or our
yeah.
But we're happy to be back. And we had kind of talked, and you had put out a short that, we've got some excellent content coming. We've got some great interviews lined up. I mean,
I'm excited.
The volume and the guests that are going to be coming on over the next several weeks, I'm just really excited about.
It's and it is Prince centric. I would guess our one guest is Prince adjacent because he's in Minneapolis, but that will be far less focused on Prince. It'll be more focused on social justice.
Absolutely.
Do we want to talk about our upcoming guest, or do we not want to spoil any secrets?
Well, I usually don't want to spoil it.
Yeah,
I like to like kind of teaser posts so people can see.
Just so check our Facebook page or YouTube page, and we'll have some teasers for our upcoming guests in the next week or so at the time of this recording.
But we do say that you will not be disappointed.
No, I can't wait. We got 2 guests today, and as you can see the screen here, behind the backdrop is, of course, the late great Cat Glover, and of course, this design right here, designed by a special guy, Mr. Steve Park, who got to know Cat around that time. We had that discussion when we were with Tanya, Damon, and your buddy there, your brother from another mother, whose name is
Kelly.
Joe Kelly. Why am I forgetting Joe, the man, the myth, the legend? Jeez. Sorry. Let me blame it on. I'm still figuring out the time zone here. That's, I've been here 4 days. I should figure it out by now. But Joe Kelly, can't forget him. Such invaluable contributions to that last episode. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you that spend any amount of time watching it. And we've got over 650 views on that so far. I think 654 last I checked.
Yeah,
and counting.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's what brought you to our next episode today, great, because you're going to get your fill. Because, Jay, can you tell us who we're going to be speaking to today?
I sure can. And, Kurt, it's interesting that you say that, because I think that today's episode is actually a continuation of sorts of the last episode that we did, which was our tribute to the life and career of Cat Glover. And today we're going to welcome Hayley Drinkall, who is the manager of Cat. And of course, Cat, who worked with Prince on Sign of the Times and the Lovesexy projects back in the 80s. And obviously she did, much more than that, being a choreographer and a dancer and working with a plethora of other artists. But we're very grateful for Hayley's time. Hayley has her own connection to Prince, Kurt, which began with a chance meeting in 1998 after a concert in London. And they actually remained friends up until Prince's untimely passing in 2016. Originally from Kingston-Upon-Hull, Hayley's a talented painter and artist in her own right. In fact, from February to April of 2016, she created a series of artworks for Prince, one of which is still featured on Princestagram, the @PRN Legacy site to this day. And I know, Kurt, that you and I are both just excited and honored to be able to talk to Hayley Drinkall today.
Yay. Hayley, thanks for coming on the Electric Vibe podcast. How do we find you today?
Okay, I guess, considering. Today I haven't been too bad a day. It's kind of like had a relaxing day.
Good.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. I know I've had off work myself these last 2 days, and just being able to catch up with some extra sleep, because of the time zones I've crossed the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Hawaii, so I'm not going to complain about that part, but we're just really glad that you accommodated us. We also forgot it's 5-hour difference right now, not 6-hour difference where you're living. And you're still in Kingston-Upon-Hull, is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Excellent. Yep. Not known for being purple country, but you have definitely planted the flag for the UK in that neck of the woods, so we appreciate you flying the purple flag.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Jay, you want to take us off here?
Sure. So, Hayley, thank you very much again for joining us. We appreciate it. One of the things that we had mentioned during the intro was that this, in effect, could be a continuation of the last podcast episode that Kurt and I did, which was our kind of, little tribute and celebration of Cat Glover's life. So we're just very honored and happy that you could join us.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of nice comments, a lot of views on that episode. So again, we're grateful that you can help us kind of continue the discussion.
Yeah. No, you're welcome. Happy to.
Great. So can we start, Hayley, with how you met Cat, and how your relationship started?
Online.
Okay.
She was on. I can't remember where we was, whether it was like Facebook and it was in comments threads or something that she posted, but it was online, and she was talking about she just got divorced and things like that, and everybody was saying, sorry to hear that, and like people do, and it'll be okay and all this. And I just came in like damn busters left the field and went, when your divorce is finalized, you're going to go out, you're going to party, you're going to wear a tiara, a sash, and she was like, I got to talk to you. And that was it. That was where it started.
Wow.
Was right from that. And she called me, took her about 3 goes. She went, I've got to call you. What's your number? So I sent her my number, and she called me, and that was the start of it. Just like that.
Wow.
We just clicked. It was you know. It was just something, you know, she said that was so funny what you wrote. And it's true, I would do that, you know. And yeah, that was where it all started.
So how does that transition happen between getting to know her, getting personal, and becoming best friends, to being her manager? How did that all transform and come about?
Because I used to say to her, you know, like, you know, you talk in general, and you know, I'd say, well, you know, what are you doing? Because like she was really quiet for a really long time. Nobody kind of knew, and it's like, where's Kat? That was the big question in like the community, was where is she? So I said, you know, you got a lot to say if you want to say it, and people actually do want to hear it and stuff like that. And she's like, well, you know, I had the kids and so on and so on. So I said, well, you know, go for it, do it. And I'd spot people that were not sincere, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, who is that, you know?
Yeah.
And then one day when we were talking, she goes, well, you're my business manager, you can sort this out. And I'm like, what? Say what? Yeah, you know, be my business manager. You're good at sorting this kind of stuff out. You're organized. And I was like, okay. And that it was as simple as that. And we just
like a
did
virtual handshake agreement. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, that was it. She said, can you handle it? I said, yeah. And I think the extra dynamic to it was the fact that I knew Prince.
Mm.
So whereas if, say, for example, it was somebody else doing it who didn't know him, there'd be a lot of explaining to do, like what it was like being in that environment, or what it was like, you know, being with him. Whereas that, you know, she'd say, oh, you know, you'd like, we'd do this, and he'd give us that look, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you're saying. So there was like no explanation needed. It just worked. Sure. So, yeah.
Because of you being an intermediary in her communication with others, did that ever reignite or spark communications with Prince and Kat at all?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. He watched us. He watched us like a hawk. I know that much. You know.
Yep.
It definitely did.
That's on brand.
Yep.
When he found out that we were working together, he was just like, no. And I'm like, coward. That's what I said to coward.
Oh, my.
Called them out.
Yeah. And he was just like, you two together? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no. Yeah. All in jest, but yeah.
Sure. Okay. I could see the look. I could see the shaking of the head and the look and that side eye all happening at once.
Yeah.
So yeah, you met Prince and knew him for about 20 years of your life.
Yeah.
If memory serves, the last time you saw him was in 2014.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So, and you hadn't communicated with him after that, prior to his death, or?
Yes, but geographically, because I'm here,
yeah,
he's over there. Yeah. We had to and fro, but I mean, in all honesty, 2014 was a really weird year for me as far as he was concerned. When he came to London the first time, I mean, to put it simply, I never had a problem seeing him. And 2014, you couldn't get near him. You know, that's when I first started thinking that, you know, something was going on. But you think of in terms of, you know, he's like, is he going into like another phase, another band? You know, it was a strange time. And I've spoke to other people and they've said the same thing. You know, definitely said the same as what I've said.
Yeah, I see people commenting and have in different interviews, even as earlier than that, prior to that, in 2013, that, you know, you could tell in live performances and what have you that something else was going on. I think, you know, it wasn't as noticeable in tours like Welcome to America.
No.
But then, and Jay, I believe you saw him in 2013 in Connecticut.
I did. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and you commented.
I did. The show was fantastic, and he was, you know, Prince. I only spoke to him 3 times briefly, so I'm not going to sit there and say that I knew Prince because I didn't. But you know, I'd been to 35 or so shows over the past 40 years, however much it's been. And the show was fantastic. I mean, he was great. It was December of 2013. He had the horn section, NPB, and he had Third Eye Girl with him, and he was fantastic. But there was something that was different about the show, and I communicated that to, I think, in our one of our most recent podcast interviews, just something a little bit different. Musically, he was spot on, but I could feel the energy was a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me personally, I started thinking probably towards the back end of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
In 2014, I went to London and you couldn't get near him, and I just put a message across to him. I said, who was ever telling you that there's fans outside who were enjoying this hit and run thing and they're all excited trying to guess where you are in London is rubbish, because they're really not, I said, you need to do a show. I mean, whether this was a coincidence or not, I don't know. But I said, you need to do a show. You need to do it quick, because there was a lot of anger on the streets in London at the time. It wasn't rosy. People were like, what is going on? And when I said about, somebody needs to book a show or do something, the next night he played 2 shows in one night and then announced he was going up north.
Yeah.
A little bit later on. So, and then I saw him in Leeds do a show, and I was with a group of friends of mine, and he came out and he was out for 2 minutes, and I was just like, he was on the stage for about 2 minutes, and I just looked and I went, something ain't right. Nobody could see it because they don't know him, so they can't see it. But I just looked and I was like, something not right. Something's not right. I just could sense that.
Prior to that, when he did the whole 21 Nights in London in 2008, had you caught any of those shows?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely. I acquired a tambourine from one of them shows because
cool.
he kind of like, what did he kept like referring to me, when people start looking at you, we're funny, and I'm thinking, here we go again, because I'd had this the night that I met him. So I acquired a tambourine and I ran away with it and gave him it back. It's now on my living room wall.
I love it.
Yeah. I said, nope, I've earned that. Thank you very much. I'm going. And I ran away before he had a chance to go.
Love it.
Obviously, we love the Prince connection, and Kat obviously had the Prince connection. But we were having a conversation in our last podcast episode, and we were talking about the kind of onstage dynamic between Prince and Kat, and how she was like the perfect muse for him, during Sign of the Times and Lovesexy. And not to rehash that, but can you take us through what Kat was like, as much as you're comfortable with, as a person, in your relationship with her? Because we saw her on stage, obviously, when we saw her. But what was she like in, real life, so to speak?
Mile a minute is the first thing that comes to mind. The energy that she had on stage, she had that not on the stage, she was a mile a minute, impulsive. She'd think of something, and exactly really what you hear her in interviews is exactly what she was like. There was no difference in her, the way she talked, the way she put things. She just said it and that was it. So yeah, I mean, and she was the same with Prince. She said to me there was a few times she'd just go back to the hotel and get dots and things, but she's like, no, I'm not having it. I'm tired. I ain't doing it. So she is exactly what you see or hear yourself when you hear her in interviews. Exactly the same.
What you see is what you get and hear and all that. That's
yeah, absolutely. And humor as well.
Well, she's in a long line of very bold, strong alpha women that Prince had. I mean, Jill Jones comes to mind.
Yeah.
That, they spoke their mind. They were not yes people. They didn't bullshit him. They gave it to him straight. And I think, not speaking for him obviously, but he appreciated people like that in his life, because they didn't sugarcoat anything, and he respected that.
Yeah, I mean, I was the same. I mean, I got told by someone I got away with quite a lot, whatever that means. But if I didn't like somebody, or, I thought somebody was around that wasn't sincere, really, I would say it. I would be like, it'd be a thing where they'd be around, I'd just disappear. And he started picking up on that, things like that. But yeah, I think, sometimes you kind of had to be like that with him.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like you say, I think he did appreciate that.
Well, you had to stand your ground.
Yeah, that depended on what prince you were getting.
Of the 5 different personalities that Morris Hayes talks about. Yeah,
depends kind of like, what mood he was in. I mean, I got on with him pretty well. Sometimes I got Saki Prince kind of thing. I just go, oh, we're like that, are we? Okay. Well, I'll just be going, No. But we got on, pretty well. So, yeah.
Cool. I just have to add to this, and Jay, anything you want to add after this, is that you and I and Jay were in communications. And I've been in communication online with you for a couple of years now, been alluding to either having you on separately or having Kat on or both.
Yeah.
And we were in negotiations with you to have Kat on as recently as August.
Yeah.
And she had revealed in a Facebook chat thread that she and I had that she had been working on a book, an autobiography, which I was actually kind of shocked about because I know how she felt about other people putting books out. I was like, and I would assume that probably was focused more. I mean, she probably would have talked about Prince, but certainly focused on her life, and absolutely. I know you had watched our podcast episode because you said you were going to be able to add some things. You weren't able to do it at the time that we were recording it. But my main takeaway from her in the exchange of things is that she knew her shit when it came to about all kinds of music. I mean, not just the whole narrative about her and Frankie Knuckles, who was her homeboy and her mentor early in her life. But somehow she found out I was in a Led Zeppelin covers band, and she started chatting about that with me. And she knew her shit about that too. She was naming deep cuts and her favorite albums and all that. I said, hey, listen, if you ever want to come on our podcast, you want to talk about Prince, you could talk about that with me all day long. Because she could just chat about all kinds of music. I mean, she was well schooled in all types of music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sure you two had conversations about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of music that you two liked and what have you.
Yeah. So. I mean, Led Zeppelin. I mean, Kat, when she was younger, was very much punk rock, ska, all that stuff. I've got pictures of her when she was like really young, spiky hair, the full eyeliner, ripped tights, the whole bit.
I'd love to see
she
photos.
Was very much into that, as well as her house music. And all that stuff as well. Fishbone, Angela Moore, all that kind of scene. She was really into all that stuff. Yeah, very diverse.
Wow.
Yeah. No. When we did our episode, we were talking to Damon Dixon, and he alluded to something, the fact that Prince would take ideas from Kat, choreographical ideas and things like that. Is she classically trained at all in dance, or was it just innate, organic?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. I think she might have gone to little dance schools when she was a kid and things like that, but it just came from her.
Sure. And she made it look effortless. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She was actually at one time thinking of opening a dance school, like a dance academy, things like that. We even got like a logo done and things like that for it. I know she would have liked to have done that. But yeah, she was thinking about opening a dance school, and it being very diverse in what it taught. So, yeah.
Who's to say that couldn't continue to be a thought and an idea dedicated to her? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And any idea if there may perhaps, and I don't know, certainly this might have been a thought in your mind, but maybe having merchandise, official Cat Glover merchandise that could go towards some kind of dance school or benefit or charity that she was particularly fond of.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough because her family, what we were going to do a few years back was I'd done an art piece of hair, and she really liked it, and it was just blue. The picture was just, it was hair, but it was just all blue.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, let's do some t-shirts and stuff. And I got these prototypes done of a pendant of her logo.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to do that. And then everybody started selling t-shirts and mugs and things like that. And we were just, she was just like, there's getting a bit too much stuff out there. You can only buy so many mugs, t-shirts, things like that. So, we didn't
wasn't
do
her
that.
Style. It wasn't
Not
her
really.
Style.
No. As soon as everybody started doing it, we kind of looked at each other and we were just kind of like, no, let's just rad this out for now.
Didn't want it to seem like you were trying to latch onto the coattails of the gravy train that everybody else was trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah, we just kind of, I mean, I think the perception I get from other people, I think they understand. I think that we kind of was on our own a little bit. We said what we thought.
Yep.
Things like that. And, that's the way we are. That's the way I am. That's the way she is. So.
Well, you both were very vocal when it came to using her image and likeness when the estate would use her image or likeness, and it wasn't necessarily vetted or sanctioned by either one of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. We talk about that a little bit, or shall we just move on?
No, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I actually talked to the estate a couple of weeks ago about that kind of stuff. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the main thing that's been on my mind since Kat passed is Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my main thing. I've made that very clear that footage is not to be released. We didn't sign no releases on that. There's no permissions to use it. So there's no reasons why, if that documentary actually ever comes out, that Kat will be included in that.
Yeah, it's my understanding, it's my understanding. You listen to other podcasts like Funkatopia, that what Netflix is doing to block this whole thing is they agreed to a 6-hour documentary, not 9 like Ezra Edelman has made. So if there was a way, and this could very well happen, for all we know, he could be working behind the scenes making a 6-hour cut and then maybe try to do something down the road like Zack Snyder did with the the Batman, the Justice League movie, do his own extended supercut version of it down the road. But that could very well happen because they can't. I think Lundell McMillan and Charles Spicer are holding them to the fact that they agreed to a 6-hour cut. So they want him to cut anything they don't want in it, and as long as it comes in the 6-hour minute mark, minute mark. Yeah, it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, as Paisley said, we didn't sign the release, so thankfully, and when she came back from the interview, and I'm thinking, this is going to be great. We should do this. It's going to be great. Then, she came back. She was absolutely furious, and I'm like, I was just like, what happened? And she was just like, she went, the way that was going, she went, I don't want no part of that. And she started telling me some of the things she was asked, and I was just like, oh hell no, no.
It was the line of questioning that was trying to be salacious and gossipy. Is that what it was? Okay.
Yeah. They were obviously going for a certain narrative. That's how it came over, and we were just like, no, we don't want to be involved with that.
Kurt and I were actually having a conversation along those lines, Hayley, a couple of weeks ago. And, obviously it had come up, the documentary and things like that. And, we were, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how Kat felt about this. We were of the ilk that, Kurt and I are very familiar with a lot of the people that Prince worked with, dare I say friendly with a lot of the people. We have relationships with people, we visit people, Paul and Jelly Bean, a lot of the people that he's worked with over the years. And, it was my personal opinion that, yes, flawed, good or bad Prince, but it needed to be a fair representation of who he was. But to the point where some things were rumored to be put in the documentary, autopsy photos and things like that. I sat there thinking, that's still somebody's friend, somebody's brother. Why do we need that just because he's Prince? And the whole business about the salacious and the things, look, we've all had drama in our lives. And so he's Prince, I don't know why we would need to have that. And I'm assuming, piggybacking on something that you just said, that Kat felt the same way. She just didn't want any part of that. And I'm quite sure that prior to the interview, she didn't know what some of the things were going to be asked, correct?
Yeah, I mean, instead of kind of give us a rough basis of where they were going, we would have just gone, not doing it, because she always used to say to me, the final decision is yours. If you say no, I don't do it. And that was how it works. So she used to laugh. She used to say, she says, all these people, they're trying to impress me. She said, but they've got to impress you,
Right. That's great.
So
right.
I'm like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I would have just turned around and said, don't even bother going to the interview. Forget it. You can't.
Hayley, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. You can't be a part of something like that.
Yeah. Where was her portion of the interview conducted? Where was she interviewed?
LA.
Online?
LA. She filmed
in
it.
LA? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that where she was living? I'm sorry. She was living out. Oh, she had just moved to an apartment in LA. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was actually still waiting for her furniture to come.
Right. Yeah, I remember you had done a Facebook Live post and you were answering a lot of people's questions, including a couple of my own. Had she finished her autobiography, which you confirmed that she did not, but you had mentioned that she had just moved into a new place and it was a new chapter in her life and she was excited about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she was. When she first moved in and she got the keys, she video calls me and video drags me around the apartment. This is where my bed's going to go. This is where the settee's going to go. Look at this kitchen. Look at this bath, just took me all around the place. And she was real, I'm going to be living by myself and things like that. And I'm like, no, you're not, because the kid's going to be around no time at all. Right. She went, oh, they're here. And I'm like, okay.
See?
That was going to be my next question. Did she have children that are out in LA living?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The twins?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. My main thing over the past, it's crazy to say it's a month, nearly a month. But he's looking after the girls and we're all looking out for them. Sure. And her son as well, and
Yeah, and a shout out to her family and her family members. Certainly we are thinking of them. And I know you had to post, unfortunately, had reached out. I had reached out before you had posted this just to qualify that, we're all thinking of them. If any family members are involved in the managing of her Facebook page, we're all thinking of you. Just something to that degree. But people were literally asking them questions on her Facebook page. Just like, people, come on.
Yeah, I know. It was, I was kind of like, I can't delete the pages because her words are in there. So, you get like your Facebook memories are going to come up.
Yeah.
Things like that. And it's like, it's a catalogue of everything, really. Weirdly, I found, because Kat would have her like official page, as we call it, and then she'd have the Cat Glover page. So them for us are like the official pages and things. And so you need to do like a page too, because you're going to fill up 5,000 whatever it is on Facebook. So you need to do another page, just in case. So those are like our official stuff. But she'd have private profiles as well. What she'd go on, and she'd always lose the passwords and things. And I found probably 10 years worth of messages the other night and voicemails and things like that. And I've not seen them in, I don't know, a long time. Because she had that many profiles, I thought I'd lost them all, because she's keeping track on her. And then she'd be like, sis, I've lost my phone. I've made a new profile. I'm like, here we go again. So don't lose your phone this time, And she'd be like, well, I try not to, Technology and Cat won't weren't a thing, you know. So yeah, so I mean, I found like, I don't know, about 10, 12 years worth of messages.
Wow, that's
Just
special.
boom, you know. Me and my daughter
And-
was listening to some of the voice messages the other night, and we were in stitches, you know. We were just like, oh my God, you know,
geez.
really funny.
It was
Wow.
very interesting, Haley, because Kurt and I were actually recording a podcast episode, and because who we were recording with, the time zones didn't line up. So we actually finished a little bit late that night. And I just happened to check Facebook after we were done.
Yeah.
And I said, oh my goodness, you know, it had been posted that the cat had passed. And I immediately texted Kurt right away and said, Kurt, you know,
Yeah.
check this out. And as the tributes and things started coming in, what was interesting to me was a lot of the things that we didn't know, you know, some of the work that she had done or some of the stories that she had. And one came up, Ricky Freeze Smith had offered his condolences to Kat. And he said, we were in the video together for We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off by Jermaine Stewart. And I said, for goodness sakes, I said, I never knew that. So we ended up watching the video. I'm like, well, look at that. So, you know, can you talk a little bit about that? Some of the things that came up, you know, after the announcement?
Yeah. I mean, the announcement itself, I managed to keep things quiet for about 3 hours, I think, you know,
Wow.
because I had to call family who didn't know, you know, and, you know, they're the sort of phone calls that you don't want to make.
Ever want to make, yeah.
Yeah. And it was just, you know, like me telling her family, because, you know, some people couldn't get in touch with certain people, and, you know, and then a lot of her family would talk to me to talk to her anyway. So that was really surreal. And then it was starting to slowly filter a little bit, getting out. And I said, look, I'm really sorry to everybody. It's impossible for me to like message everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted the announcement to be very specific.
Yeah.
And the photo to be very, you know, hair basically, not
Yeah.
dressed in a cat costume, you know, dressed as Kathy, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and as soon as I pressed that post button, I was like, I've just dropped a bomb. You know,
Yeah.
it was a horrible feeling, but yeah, I mean, the people that have reached out. I mean, Angela Moore, for example, she did the rap on the end of one of his songs a few years back.
Yeah, when you posted that, I had no idea she'd done that song.
Yeah, that was a while ago. That was a
Cool
while
track
ago.
too. Yeah, I'd never heard it. I never didn't know who he was, to be honest with you. But thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. That was a jewel.
Yeah,
That was a
I
find.
thought, you know, something to sort of, you know, kind of not peck everybody up, but something that they might not know. People might not realize she did the rap at the end of that. You know, so I'm gonna put that out.
Personally, I'm curious to know what she was doing, you know, in her life actively. I mean, she would do those kind of things, I'm assuming, sporadically, because I don't remember her collaborating with a whole lot of people. So what was
Yeah.
she doing outside of music to sustain a life?
Basically, she would go for choreography jobs still.
Okay.
I think she, a few years back, went for Justin Timberlake tour before this one.
Oh,
I remember
wow.
that. She was in touch with some of his people about doing that, but she didn't do that. But yeah, I mean, Kat, she just basically did what she liked, really. You know, a main thing was looking after the twins, looking after the girls,
Yeah.
being a mom, all of that stuff. Built the same as me, really,
Got it.
in that respect. So, but yeah, you know, she was just doing what she wanted to do when she wanted to do it, really.
So more of a freelancing type
Yeah,
operation. Okay.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Respect to that. I mean, if you can make that happen in this day and age,
Yes.
hats off to you. And speaking of
Yeah.
which, you know, we'd like to talk to you more. I mean, you've certainly been generous, you know, sharing, you know, about Kat, but we'd certainly like to know about your background,
Okay.
because the unique skill set that you offered her, you're also a visual graphics artist. Your TikTok posts are hilarious. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, thank you.
You do some great. You have a comedic side to you that I don't know that everybody necessarily knows about, and you
Yeah.
should definitely check out, because, you know, I'm like, why isn't this gal on a Britcom of some sort? You know, seriously. Do you have any theater or dramatic background? I
No.
mean,
No.
okay. Well, yeah, you could have fooled me. Um,
No.
so can you take us back to the early days of primary school and high school and your journey towards, going from music into art?
Yeah, I mean, um, music was, I always wanted to like learn instruments and read music, the whole thing. And when I was, as I said earlier, when I was at primary school, I had an amazing music teacher. And he was very unorthodox in how he taught us. It wasn't like, strict curriculum, you'll follow this, you'll follow that. He'd bring in a saxophone and insisted that every kid in the class touch this saxophone,
Oh,
and know that they exist. And then he'd bring a drum kit in, and get us to. He did this thing one time, and I was like so happy all day. He'd say something to us, and then he'd say, "Play it," and I'm like, I'm 6, 7 year old, about 7 year old, and he'd give us like 2 words, and then he'd say, "Play it on the drums," and we'd be like, "What's he talking about?" And he said to me, "Crispy celery." I always remember it. And I'm like, huh? I said, "Play it." "Play what?" "Crispy celery." "Can you hear any melody in what I'm saying?" I went, "No, you're saying crispy celery. I don't know what you're talking about." And then you get you to pat it out on the drums, a melody in what he was saying, if that makes sense. And he'd go, "That's it. You've got it. That's it." And we'd be like, "Really, I ain't got it. I don't know what you're talking about." But I do now. But back then it was like, I had no idea where he was going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like really unorthodox and easygoing and method to his madness of how he taught us, basically.
What was his name? What was your
He was
teacher's
called,
name?
he was called Mr. Horsley, you
Cool.
know, and he played the piano in assembly and he'd play the hymns and he'd be rocking out playing the hymns, he'd be gone, he'd be like lean back on the piano, playing the piano, and
Cool.
we were singing hymns, he was like that.
Assuming, I guess I assume if he was playing hymns, he probably was a church musician of some sort.
I think, yeah, he wrote a lot of music.
Oh, cool.
He died about, one of my friends probably correct me on this, about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe something like that.
Cool.
And he had dementia, I think, and he was still writing music.
Wow.
And they had all his music written, all he'd written was laid out on the tables when we went to the funeral, and he was still sharp. Unreal.
Wow.
Absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, he was a brilliant teacher. Then I went to high school, like 11 to 16, and that was a shock. That was like being brought down to earth with a thud. Our English teacher, our music teacher was very strict, very boxed, very boxed in, and this is Beethoven and this is Chopin, and I'm like, I ain't doing it. And I went home and I said to my mother, I want to drop music. And she was like, huh? I'm like, oh, I want to drop music. I'm going to do art. And I went to the art block. We had like a separate art block in the school, and they let me swap. And I went to the art classes, and our art teachers were as unorthodox as my maths teacher was. And it was like, yes, I'd sit there doing artwork and things like that and get really irritated because I couldn't get it right. And they'd walk past me, and the picture we were doing, he would turn it upside down. He went, now look at it like that and you will do it. And that's exactly what used to happen. And they just taught us different ways of artwork and things like that. So, and they let us play music full blast, which was very disapproved by the headmistress at the time. She didn't like it.
But as a former music educator myself, a cultural arts teacher, and also had the art teacher I worked with in my primary school days in Maryland, Jessup, Maryland, Katrina, then Schmidt, now Katrina Zimmerman. She would play music in her classrooms in the art room, and kids were just. It's all about one word: engagement.
Yeah.
And obviously, you can talk about your music teacher all these years later, and it was because he had you so thoroughly engaged that you remember him all these years later, and that's the power that teachers possess if they do it right. If they do it right.
Yeah. A method to the madness, I always call it.
Hey, the madness got you there.
Yeah,
You know what I
And
mean?
yeah, and I mean, in high school, I just come music. I always thought I'd do music and learn the violin and all kinds of stuff like that. And it just didn't happen because that really sort of put me off at 11 years old. It put me off. So I went down my own musical path and did art.
Prior to Prince, who were some of your musical favorite artists?
Oh,
That
like
time.
when I look back now, well, when I was growing up, my mum and my dad were very diverse in what they listened to.
Sure.
So while a lot of the girls at school were into the boy bands like Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, so on, I'd be listening to Oscar Peterson,
Oh.
Frank Sinatra, um, and then from that end of it to The Who, which was like my mum's favourite band. She loved The Who, absolutely loves The Who. So, very diverse. And when I would have been 13, I was listening to bits of Prince, but not really picking up that sometimes it was the same guy because it was different, And when Purple Rain hit, I was listening to that, and my dad would be like going downstairs to my mum saying, "Have you heard what she's listening to? That I've never heard such filth in my life." And he didn't like it because I was listening to Prince, and my mum would be like, "Oh, chill out," crank her music up downstairs, and that's what we were like,
Oh.
in the house. That's what we were like. There was stuff going on upstairs. There was music downstairs.
Sure.
Fridays was just crazy, weekend come in. That was it.
So, sorry, Jay. I have what? So you have been involved intermittently in interviews over the last, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. Not a whole lot of interviews in depth about you and your life, but you're definitely a candidate for further symposia. And I hope somewhere down the road that you get to tell all your stories about Prince. You certainly can't tell them all here. Otherwise we would have our own supercut interview. That would be it'd be Eric Leeds length. If you know anything about Eric Leeds interviews, he'll leave you with a couple hours. But and he's a lovely guy. But is there anything about your experience with Prince or Kat that doesn't get talked about often enough that you would want to share?
Really, to be honest with you, I think the first thing that comes into mind is what Kat always used to say: people don't realize that you knew Prince. And I'm like, well, that's fine with me, but and they don't realize that you do all this artwork and you do all this stuff and things like that, and you're a person in your own right, I guess. And I never really thought of it that way, to be honest.
Sure.
But I guess she's right. In a way, people don't realize, I actually knew Prince. That's why me and Kat's dynamic worked well. And I was an artist. I'm an artist. Probably always will be. I mean, one of my artworks is on Prince's Instagram.
Yes. And that's part of your original arts umbrella. Would you care to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I started really kind of on a whim a long time ago. I don't know, about 20 years ago, maybe. And I kind of wanted to put things in one place, but I have too many ideas, if that makes sense, for all different kinds of things, and it was really hard to sort of keep a hub. And so you make another social media account and you put things in there. And I've decided to kind of like just try and keep everything under that logo now, if I can, because it's just too much going on. But when I started doing that, I actually started painting. And Prince didn't realize it was me, I think, for a while, because I just would post it as original arts. And I can't remember how he found out. I think he'd seen a picture or something that he'd liked. And I went, I can't remember which one it was. It might have been a drawing, a sketch, actually. Okay. And he went, "Oh, this is kind of cool." And you'd go through like art, because you'd see a lot on the internet, because he'd go on the internet as somebody else and spy on everything, which he got great amusement out of, basically. And, and one of the pictures was one of mine, and I went, God, I remember that. That's going back a while. That took a long time to do. And you went, excuse me. And he got real annoyed because I didn't tell him that it was me initially. So I'm like, well, how do I slip that into a conversation without sounding opportunistic?
Mhm.
You know? And he just was like, so what else do you do? I went, I don't know, whatever comes into my head, which is probably the most accurate way of putting it.
Sure.
And then he would watch. And then I started doing these like square pictures. And it was him, and the background was like squares. And they looked really simple, but they were really complicated to put together.
Yeah.
And I just got a message saying, just keep going, because he's thinking of buying them. And little did I know until I spoke to Paisley, like in 2017, I think it was, what he was actually planning. I had no idea. And I remember when that picture got posted on his Instagram, and that was like the first one I did. And I mean, I look at it now and I'm like, compared to where they ended up going, it's very basic, you know?
Yeah.
So when that one's on there, I'm like, because I can see faults what I would change now. And, you know, I mean, I won't change it at all now because it's on his Instagram, but
sure.
You know, how they developed was, you know, and I started doing animation in them and all kinds of things. Oh, I got an alarm going off. 1 second. There we go. You know, so there was some of them was animated in the end and things like that. And one thing I will say about Prince is, and I don't think, and I've said this before, but I don't think you would get that kind of freedom with an artist of his caliber, just letting you go, do what you want. And that's what he did. And I'm like, you know, and I'd say, is it okay? And somebody said, if you don't hear anything, everything's great, you know? And then the next thing I knew, it was posted, and I was just like, okay. Yeah.
So of the mediums that you use to create your art, what medium are you most comfortable and at home with?
I always say real stuff like acrylic and canvas.
Tactile materials. Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the digital artwork is a different realm.
Yeah, it's a different thing. I mean, it's still artwork. There's nothing wrong with it, but
yeah,
I still like to get a paintbrush or a charcoal pencil, you know. Yeah.
Get a little bit messy with it as well. I mean, hey, what the heck? It's art.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, at your home, do you have an art studio that you work in or work from, or?
Yeah, well, my daughter is exactly the same as me. So my husband's got two of us, you know, to deal with, you know, and she's very artistic. And she did art at school and everything as well. But she's the same as me, self-taught. And so there's both of us in the house, you know. She has a full-on summer house in the back garden, and she has all that, and yeah, we just wherever, you know.
So she's got the she shed, as we say, the female version of the man cave. She's got her own she shed.
She does. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And she's a goth as well, so it's all very goth down.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
As we all do, but the fact that she's got art as the outlet and a support system,
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody has that, and I'm sure she realizes as she's getting up in years, it's how lucky she is. I hope she realizes that.
Yeah, she's an amazing kid. You know, she really is. She's a very inspirational kid for people our age. Absolutely.
Cool. And
unique
she's keeping goth alive. She's keeping goth alive. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, luckily for me, I used to do hairdressing when I first left school. Thankfully, because at the minute we're on to bright, shocking pink roots and black hair.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
She a big fan of Susie and the Banshees?
She's had a look. I've keep mentioning things.
Okay.
But she actually started hearing about them from the Wednesday series.
Oh, sure, of course. I was going to mention that if she's even involved, like the old Winona Ryder version of Beetlejuice and all that.
Yeah,
she's a fan, I'm sure.
Yeah, she does. And and she's really taken with the Wednesday series right now. She's got the dress, the dance dress.
Sure, yeah.
Honestly, and I haven't seen the sequel to Beetlejuice yet, but I mean, that series is probably the best thing he's done in a long time since the first Beetlejuice, if I'm being honest. That series, I mean, the version of Gomez Adams with Luis, Guzman.
Yeah.
It is more grotesque and more accurate to the original graphic series in the New Yorker, I think, right? Than John Astin, whom I actually know. That's a conversation we can have off topic. I've worked with John Astin twice in Baltimore. He taught theater at Hopkins, but what a super guy. But Luis Guzman's version is much more grotesque and a little more accurate to the it's really great. Oh, I love Wednesday.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the new season.
I know. My daughter's like, when's it coming out? When's it coming out?
I know.
So you're going to have to wait a little bit,
I know.
Weirdly as well, Kat was endorsing an artist who's a really good friend of mine. He's so talented. It's crazy. And the person who's producing Ellis, his name's Ellis, the person who's producing him, his wife was in Wednesday. Small world.
Oh, shoot.
Small world.
It gets increasingly smaller as you get to know people. It's crazy. Wow, that's super cool.
In fact, Kat wanted to collaborate with Ellis on a song, which they didn't get to do. So,
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, are there plans to do things, obviously keeping Kat's memory alive? Is there anything that we can be should be looking for on the horizon?
There is talk. There's a few people that have talked about maybe doing a celebration of life, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be cool to maybe do that. Exactly how and when it's very much sort of talking in the air at the moment. I think for right now we're just going to kind of focus on the cremation, and that's going to hit home again, for the kids and stuff. So after that's done, then maybe think about something like that. But there's a couple of people that have mentioned stuff like that. So yeah, I
would imagine somebody like D'Angela Duff, and shout out to her because she does the work.
Amazing,
with that Lovesexy symposium, when she had Kat on there and got to know Kat personally, it was a gift to us all.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm sure you've had.
I mean, took some convincing for her to do it, but she did it in the end, which I'm glad she did.
We're all glad she did.
Yeah. Well, what had happened with that was I'd met D'Angelo at Manchester when we did the first symposium in Manchester, the Purple Rain one, and I was at that, and I met D'Angelo, and she gave me a card, and she said it'd be great to have Kat on the podcast, and she just struck me because she was really, she was newer stuff, you could tell.
Oh yeah.
And then when they did the Lovesexy symposium, I said, "Oh yeah, you should do it." And D'Angela's amazing, it'll be great.
Yeah.
And then Matt as well. And I was like, I said to Matt, go do it. It'll be great,
Yeah.
And they all reunited, which was good.
Yeah. Matt Fink, you're talking about. Matt's great. He's a lovely guy. Very interestingly, he's selling a lot of his assets off from that time. Keyboards, the cassette tapes.
Yeah, I saw something the other day about that, yeah.
Yeah, but not just the whole cassette thing, with demos, Lovesexy tour rehearsals, all kinds of stuff. He's selling a lot of his keyboards, his awards, and stuff like that. So.
Oh, wow, yeah. I caught a little bit. I think it was something to do with cassette tapes and things like that. Yeah.
But there's now a whole auction page you can go to. I was like, oh, okay. Well, the guy's getting up in years and retirement, and if an artist truly ever does retire, how many reunion tours have we seen where this is it, guys? Kiss anyone?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kiss, definitely.
Yeah.
But, it's that was good to do that. And then she did the interview with Michael Dean, which was really fun because I had no idea about that. I got a message in the morning and it said, "Sis, don't get mad, but I did an interview last night." And I'm like, "Why are you saying don't get mad?" She went, "Well, I may have gone over the top a little bit, or whatever. I'm like, well, it's new, that's you."
I mean, like, you'd be surprised, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it was a good interview. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And when she did the second part, Cat spills tea with Cat. You got your money's worth.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I listen to her and it's just like she's talking to me in private. It's exactly the same, you know, exactly the same.
Yeah.
No difference whatsoever. Absolutely not.
I loved her speaking voice as she got older as well. She had that kind of B. Arthur-y kind of rasp to it, and it just was so cool.
Yeah. I mean, that actually came about when she was ill.
Yeah.
Her voice changed.
Yeah.
Because she had a tracheotomy.
Yeah.
So it changed her voice a little bit.
Yeah.
But I used to say, I think it's added to it.
Personally. Oh, I think it definitely added the character, the character of the voice. It didn't matter. It was still her, but it had that older edge. She was almost like a B. She almost really was in a way. B. Arthur also spoke her mind and said things, especially the character she played on Golden Girls. It kind of reminds me of Kat in a different way. Just thinking of that, just popping into my head as it happens. But yeah, well, I tell you, it's just a pleasure getting to finally speak to you. Unfortunately, under the circumstances, but
yeah.
And our hearts go out to you as well, because I know this has been a tough thing to swallow these last almost a month now, as you pointed out earlier.
Yeah.
And our hearts go out to you as well. This cannot be easy to manage this part at all.
It isn't, but I mean, that's kind of what's kept me going. I'm being very robotic in it. To be honest with you, I don't think it's really hit. And I think it will when the cremation happens.
Yeah.
Because I've been so preoccupied with the girls.
Sure.
Her son, the rest of the family. I think one of the most things that have got me up to now is when one of the elders of the family insisted on getting on the phone with me to thank me for everything that I did.
Mm.
And, for like an 89-year-old woman to say that to me, it was obviously like the matriarch of that side of the family.
Yeah.
That was a moment, that really got me, But, yeah, I mean, like I say, what got me really annoyed was the New York Times article that came out when they reported about Kat, and they actually got the dates right on that one. They asked me, and when they put former manager, and I'm like, no. This, to me, it feels like it's just starting again.
Yeah. No. And I get that. I mean, you're former manager of the living Kat Glover, but you're going to forever in perpetuity be her manager of her, not just her life, but the legacy that she's left behind. And I think that's just as important a role as a manager when somebody unfortunately passes the way she did. So, if there's anything that ever comes up in the future or anything and you'd like to come on about anything, the door is always open here to you at the Electric Vibe Podcast. And we really appreciate you and the hours difference right now that you
Well, thanks to Prince, I'm on a Minneapolis time scale. It's never going to go away.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah, it's I'm totally in the wrong time zone, or I'm in the wrong country. I don't know, a bit of both. I really don't know.
Well, depending on how dare I say this, Jay, depending on how the outcome of the next couple weeks turn out, I don't know that you want to move to the States anytime soon.
Yeah. I've been in. I try and keep away from news and politics, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I was trying to skirt that line of not really getting overtly political, but you know of where I'm going with that. So, but living in a country like you do, where you had a major election happen as well, that doesn't get talked about as much, unfortunately.
Yeah.
People don't not keeping up with that part of it. Well, I know I speak for Jay and myself when we say thank you so much for coming on, and we hope to have you back in some way, shape, or form, or just keep in touch and keep chat anytime. And thank you of all the off the air activity that you provided us and chatting with us and being very candid about things. We really appreciate it.
More than welcome. Yeah.
Jay, I'm going to say my final statement as I normally do, which will lead you off. If you like what you heard and saw today, or at least appreciate it in this case, a like is probably not an apropos word. But if you appreciate our discussion here with Hayley, please hit the like and subscribe button below. To hit the bell notification so you can keep up with future episodes, of which there are going to be plenty to have to listen and to hear. And we're going to be soon on all streaming platforms, I believe, Jay. That's down the road. And once I get around to actually having time to do it, there will be a theme song to go along with all these episodes that I'm working on and have crafted in my head. I just have to have the time to bring it out. Thanks again to Hayley for coming on the Electric Vibe podcast. And as I always say, Jay, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes. So we want to once again echo what Kurt just said and thank Hayley Drinkall for your time and for your graciousness. We certainly appreciate it. And for all of you out there, remember what we always say. When the universe comes knocking, you've got to answer that door.
Peace. The female version of the man cave. She's got her own she shed.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And she's a goth as well, so it's all very goth down.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to your I'm sorry, your daughter's name again?